This is Dr. Mariah White, host of Your Life Matters. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media.
Hey, this is Selena Yvette, and you're listening to Stories from Planet Earth. This month, we are focusing on the theme, Love the Earth. So today, I am sitting here with my friend Dominique.
Hello.
Thank you so much for being here.
I'm happy to be talking with you today, too.
Yeah. So just to start off, let's just learn a little bit more about you. Who are you?
So I am a San Francisco native, and I was born and raised in a city, and I always knew and felt that I love the earth in little ways, such as like riding my bike through Golden Gate Park or hiking in Muir Woods with my aunt, who at the time was a park ranger. And over time, I started finding more interests in the outdoors throughout high school, and now I live in Fort Collins, Colorado, which I think is a beautiful place, and it's a huge change from living in a city to, for me, this is the countryside.
Fort Collins is definitely a change from San Francisco.
Yeah, it's a great change, honestly.
Yeah, so you came here to go to college at CSU.
I did. I came here for environmental health originally, and I thought it had to do with natural resources, and I found out that it was basically just looking at how humans are affected by disease and natural disasters. So I quickly switched out of that degree into a new degree that was more about social behavior called Human Dimensions of Natural Resources.
Okay, cool. And what exactly does that degree entail?
We look at behavior change specifically and how to communicate environmental stewardship towards sustainability in our open space, any protected area. We're looking at how people think that they give or take or use our natural resources, and we look at what are the best management practices and how to convey messages that we want so that we can be better stewards for our natural resources.
Yeah, that's amazing. So that's the career field that you want to eventually move into.
I'd say most definitely I want to go into communication and kind of consulting for sustainability. That's my big goal. There's a lot of firms now that are opening up that are environmentally focused for social corporate responsibility, and I think that it is a trend that I'd like to be a part of, or not necessarily a trend, but a new field that is important for me to join.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as we just progress, it's going to be more and more important for big companies to shift their mindset and just realize that it's important for them to be doing their part, because it is truly at the end of the day in their hands, because, we can do our individual efforts, and that's important as well, obviously, but a lot more power is in the hands of big corporations and companies that play a way bigger role in just all of the negative effects we're seeing on our environment right now.
Definitely.
So tell me a little bit more about what consulting is all about.
Well, consulting is a fun way of understanding and assessing and recommending how we as professionals think and observe a corporation or a entity, how their impact is currently affecting society and the environment and the economy, which is known as the triple bottom line of sustainability, is all three of those factors. And then after this assessment, we look at what we can recommend and what the corporation can do to reduce their negative ecological and social impacts while still being economically viable and profitable over time. So there's a lot of realizations that happen with consulting that is beneficial to companies, and companies that go through consulting or that go with a consulting firm tend to have better outcomes at the end of the day.
Yeah, that is really amazing, and I think it's so needed right now. So I'm excited to hear more about all of that as you move through your career. So when was it that you first realized your love for the environment?
When I was telling you that when I was growing up with my aunt being a naturalist and a park ranger in Muir Woods, that was me just absorbing like a sponge nature at its finest moments. And my family has a ranch up in Northern California, and I'd just be able to wander the woods just in awe. And I think that the real moment that I realized that I wanted to do something for the earth was when my high school teacher, she was an environmental science teacher, she took a couple students, including myself, up to Yosemite National Park, and we were there for a couple excursions, and I just fell in love with the place and the way that that teacher taught me to observe and learn from the earth. That was kind of the catalyst to wanting to go into sustainability and natural resource management.
That's pretty amazing. I think that is something I discussed this with the last person I interviewed. Just being in nature and that connectivity is so important. And I think if more people were exposed to that, a lot more people would care, Yeah. Because if you don't have that personal connection to this beautiful planet, it's a little bit harder to maybe conceptualize our effects on it. It might be easier to forget that we are in many ways nature, and
Absolutely.
That sounds so hippy dippy, but it's true. It's like at the end of the day, we're so connected to the planet and we rely on it. It's our home. So those moments where you're getting to be fully immersed in it, just so important. Yeah.
And I think currently right now we have all this technology that brings nature to our screens, and that's not the same. It's just, as much as those videos and photographs are beautiful and they capture something that is unique and true, it doesn't give a person the same sense of what the feeling is of being in nature. And that's why a lot of people don't realize it, but can be nature deprived, and they don't think that they need to be in touch with nature. And it's important to be immersed in nature, whether it's, a 20-minute walk or a hike, once a week. But it's something that being in nature is something that everybody should be engaged with daily if they can.
Yeah, and we're so lucky in Colorado because
oh my goodness,
we have like some of the most beautiful open spaces.
Oh yeah.
And we're so lucky. It's so accessible to us. We can just drive 15 minutes and we'll be in the middle of the woods, so it's something that I think some people in maybe, I don't know, like middle America might not have as much access to, but I think that is why it's so important to protect our national parks and current open spaces because they're dwindling a bit, and it's important to preserve it, not only for the sake of the environment, which is like a huge key factor, but also so that we can have access to it and know that this is, you know, our space in our home.
And a place to become, you know, just to be wholesome again. Yeah. Because I don't know if you've ever felt this, but whenever I've felt agitated or aggravated about something, can't think a problem through, I'll go on a walk. And even if it's kind of in my neighborhood, if there's trees or if I go on a big hike, I feel free and lighthearted after. It's an incredible shift in mentality just because of our surroundings.
Yeah, and it just lends so well to mindfulness and fully appreciating the moment that you're in. And I think it's a great tool for stress relief and just if you're having a bad day. Yeah, just you don't even have to go to the middle of Rocky Mountain National Park. It could literally just be your neighborhood park. Mm-hmm. I know that anytime I walk my dog just within my neighborhood, I feel just so refreshed with all the trees and, you know, the animals. I live right next to Garden of the Gods right now, so I see deer every day, and it's just so nice to be in it, and it's such a feeling of comfort and like, oh my gosh, I'm home, you know?
Yeah, definitely. And back to what you were saying about Colorado, that's a reason why I love this state so much. And I know a lot of Californians, we come out here and the Coloradoans are telling us to get out, but it's truly just magnificent and so outdoor focused that's why I fell in love with this state. When I visited, I could just sense people's respect for the outdoors. And I mean, a value here in the city of Fort Collins is that everybody has access to an open space and natural area within 10 minutes of walking, which is almost unheard of. And they've won a national accolades because of that. And it's just, I guess that mindset isn't found everywhere. And I didn't find that in San Francisco. And so we're really lucky, the people that live here in Colorado, and to appreciate nature as we do. And even, you know, the Colorado lottery money goes towards open spaces. So it's just we're already so focused on valuing nature. So it's hopefully more people as more people come to Colorado, we can keep that authenticity of the values of loving nature.
Yeah, absolutely. So that leads me to my next question. As outdoor recreation grows, how do we balance keeping these spaces open and accessible to people while also protecting those spaces from the people that are going into them?
I've done some research in Panama, actually, on tourism impacts to the marine ecosystem, and also seen research done here in Colorado about tourism as it grows, whether it's rafting or hiking and camping. And we definitely think that just because we're outdoors, we're positively impacting our environment. However, there are, as these outdoor activities grow, our impact is also growing on our environment in potentially a negative way. For example, hikers with pets leave a lot of dog feces on the trails, even if it's bagged. And I think that that's a terrible habit that's growing, and just leaving trash everywhere. Along with that, people create social trails, which increase fragmentation, habitat fragmentation for wildlife. And as much as we don't think that staying on the trail is that big of a deal, there's a lot of species that are edge sensitive, which means that the closer humans are to them, the further away that they will move away. And that goes with aquatic species, and riparian areas, which are ecosystems on the edge of rivers. Those also are extremely sensitive to human impact. I think that we need to learn how to take time to give nature back a recovery period. So say maybe in the winter, as hikers, we don't use these certain trails that are shaded because there's a lot of mud and there's not a lot of sunlight for that ground to dry. So when people trample on wet ground, it's hard for plants to recover. Or ensuring that everybody follows the rules in place to protect sensitive spaces. And this is a conversation that I was actually having with a friend yesterday. She asked me, do you think that Antarctica should be off limits to humans? And her thought behind it is it's such a sensitive place and tourism has huge impacts there. So I was thinking about it and I thought, I mean, just because it's sensitive and unique, that would be lessening the value of other ecosystems around the world, like within the tropics. There needs to be a lot more discipline from humans, from our own selves, I guess, in how we negatively impact the earth.
Yeah, so maybe just realizing that some places we need to put more of a focus on protecting rather than visiting and feeling the need to impede on that space, because maybe it isn't a place where humans necessarily need to be all of the time, so that we can protect our
natural resources,
which is hard because the earth is so beautiful and we want to be in it, but there are some places that just
need recovery time.
And as we know, not everybody is super sensitive to the fact that our impact can change their ecosystem. This might not be super relevant, but I remember the first time I went to the Grand Canyon, I was just horrified because there were just water bottles thrown over the edge all the way across the rim. And I don't know if the Grand Canyon is necessarily a sensitive area or not, but it was just heartbreaking to see that we're coming here to visit this beautiful place and you're kind of just trashing it. And that, I think, is an important reason why we do need to limit some spots, because at the end of the day, there's a lot of people that care, but then there are those people that are into outdoor recreation that just don't care.
Yeah.
And they're just not going to listen to the rules of how to act while you're out in nature. So I think it is important to maybe limit those spaces, unfortunately. But
and on an additional note, a important aspect to think about is people in the community of whatever natural area that we are trying to protect. For example, here in Colorado, we love our Poudre River. The most important aspect that I think is that the people within our community, especially people that work for recreational industries, they're the ones that need to sustain the rules that we instill as a community to preserve our natural areas. Because if the people that live in a place don't care about the nature and the ecology, and they just care about the profit that they're bringing in, and it starts impacting the ecology, at the end of the day, they're also going to be losing. So it's important to make sure that whoever lives in a place cares more about that place than anybody visiting, because we set the example where we live. So if we set a bad example, then visitors are going to be trampling around. But if we set a great example of how to respect nature in our own backyards, then we're more likely to succeed with visitors coming and recreating here as well.
Yeah, I think that is so key, just educating people. Knowing that in your town, in your open spaces, we have that educational piece where if you're a visitor, you're going to be held accountable and you're going to be educated as you come into these spaces, because as much as we should be in those spaces and it's very important for us to get connected to nature, it's also just as important that we're educated on how to preserve it and protect it while we're in those spaces.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, let's shift gears here a little bit. How do you incorporate sustainable habits into your life on a daily basis?
Well, I always find it fun and challenging, but fun, to try something new if I can, or learn something new about sustainability, whether it's through a conversation with a stranger of what they're doing to be sustainable, or the latest desalination project in a country. But daily routines for sustainability that I take on include composting. I just joined a pickup program in Fort Collins called Composting Queen. You should definitely check them out. They're kind of a local mom and pops. They're a couple that started small and they've grown not exponentially, but they've grown significantly in the past 6 months since I started joining them. And that's something that I brought to the house that I live in now with my roommates. They tried composting before, and I told them, hey, I found this pickup service. I said, hey, this is a lot easier than trying to turn a compost every day ourselves in our own backyards. It's an easy way to avoid, pounds of food waste going into our landfill. And on top of that, I try to minimize all of the food waste, and generally like plastic waste or any waste that I generate. I've minimized how many trash cans I have around the house, so I have more recycling than trash cans. And I'm pretty mindful about my purchasing. So first and foremost, I buy in bulk instead of our prepackaged food or any other products. Most body products that I buy are handmade here in Fort Collins, and I just fill up my shampoo bottles that I've reused. And the hardest thing is probably trying to stay away from exotic foods, like bananas that have huge transportation cost, or berries that are always packaged in plastic. But I realize that those are little things that I find enjoyment with. So instead of getting them every single day, I just buy occasionally. I also gave my car away 3 years ago to my sister, and have been traveling or living with my bike, which is amazing. And it's helped me become fit and gives me clarity and a peace of mind. And if I don't use my bike, then I'm walking or taking the bus or hitchhiking, which I've actually done a couple times now up to the mountains, and just met amazing people. And my parents probably should not be listening to this.
Be a little disappointed.
Yeah, my family would be like, what are you doing with your knucklehead? But gosh, it's a lot of fun. And Colorado is such a friendly place that everybody's super generous. So I'm lucky in that regard.
Yeah, definitely.
And a very important sustainability practice that I hold a lot of value to is purchasing local products, local and organic, as you know, as much as possible. That is so important to me because it's built community and it bolsters our local economy. And Fort Collins has Larimer County has a vibrant economy in products here. So I also volunteer at a cafe. It's kind of a soup kitchen, but it's a little bit higher end, I would say, I guess. It's called the Foco Cafe in downtown Fort Collins, and I volunteer there weekly, and people can come in. The great thing about this cafe is you can come in and volunteer an hour for a meal, but there's also members. You can be a member, and this is for working class people that donate money, and then they come in, you know, on their lunch break with a group of like 7 to 10 people and just have an amazing meal with amazing people, and there's even music. So it's the love of the community is really shown right there. And a lot of soup kitchens tend to be just run with drugs and a lot of negativity, but here it brings people together. So I think that volunteering, whether it's for restoration or food, you know, working in a kitchen like a community kitchen, is our other sustainability initiatives that I take that bring me happiness.
Yeah, Fort Collins is just so amazing for all things sustainable, really. I miss this city because of that. It's just such a vibrant and eco-conscious town. Yeah, it's amazing.
Come back.
I know. Maybe one of these days I'll have to move back. I did want to touch base on composting again, because I think a lot of people are unaware of why it's so important to compost and what the effects of food waste have in the landfills.
Well, this is definitely an argument that I've had with people in my life that believe that their food waste is so marginal that it makes no difference. However, when we don't properly dispose of our food waste, it breaks down in a way that increases greenhouse gases into our atmosphere, which I know is an elusive idea. However, food and any material, any biological material, so leaves, dead animals, any organic material, has a process of decomposition. And when we put it in a landfill, we don't allow air to help properly decompose that material. And like I said, it causes methane to build up. And as much as we can use methane as a fuel source, it's actually pretty expensive to put in that infrastructure for that. So it's not only are we taking up space on the earth for dumping our waste that could have been used for a park or for preservation, for housing, we're now using that to build this uninhabitable space that will be sitting there for hundreds of years. And composting is so important because it's another way to put less into that dump, into that landfill. We need to start thinking about reducing our waste to begin with, and composting at least is a great way that when you do have waste, we are able to recycle it. Composting is recycling organic material and reducing landfill waste.
Yeah. So I'm wondering, how can people just starting out trying to shift into a more sustainable lifestyle, what would you say that they should focus on? How should they move forward to begin?
Join a meetup group. Meetup is a social gathering network online, and there's groups from fitness to cooking to biking around, and I'd say find whichever one is of interest to you, but find some that have a sustainability undertone or that are directly an eco-friendly group. There is a group called Eco Unite that I joined a couple months ago, and on a monthly basis we talk about different issues regarding society and sustainability, and we intertwine social justice, environmental justice, and that's I think a great way to start when you don't really know anything about sustainability. But I also recommend talking to friends that you think are already taking on sustainable actions, whether it's biking to work, taking public transportation to work, they go to farmers markets, or I'd suggest going to farmers markets right off the bat. It's a great way to ask questions to the people that are producing the food that you eat, the nutrients that sustain our body. I also recommend looking up online organizations that take on restoration practices, conservation practices, and volunteering. Volunteering is a great way to learn about your community, because sustainability isn't only about the environment, it's about our society. And so having a positive impact on our community equivocates to having a positive impact on our environment. Another idea to gain knowledge on sustainability is to follow social media platforms that are focused on being eco-friendly, and a lot of the times these accounts not only provide a lot of information and resources, but they are inspiring and they bring that sense of community online that show how important sustainability is. So that's another great way to learn from other people how to be more sustainable.
Yeah, I really like that, because whenever I first started trying to incorporate more sustainable habits into my life, I know I leaned heavily on social media and, people who were already living that lifestyle. It was really inspiring to see how they started out and what their tips for maintaining that lifestyle were. And I still have a lot to learn, I think.
Yeah.
But it's nice to have those online spaces, because you can always lean on those for more information and just inspiration, and it's pretty amazing.
Exactly. And what you were saying about how you can see people over time changing or increasing their sustainability habits on social media platforms, it's the same way for us as individuals. And sustainability is constant. It doesn't happen. It's not something that's all at once. So everybody's taking a different step every single day. And as long as we can continue making sustainable changes on a day-to-day basis, then that's really the goal. Taking the first step is extremely important, and continuing over time is equally as important.
Yeah. So, do you have any last remarks, anything else you'd like to just add to say to the people about sustainability and environmentalism?
Of course I do.
Yeah, we could probably talk about this for a long time and not run out of things to talk about.
Well, I would love to finish saying that we all love the earth in different ways, whether we realize it or not. And we're provided with life because of earth, and a great way to appreciate what we have is to forever be immersed in nature, whether it's taking a run outside instead of running in the gym, or putting your money towards a vacation in a camping rather than a hotel. Those are ways that we can give back to the earth, and do some art outside. Take your friends hiking or camping instead of going out to a bar or hotel, and tone down the technology while you're out in nature. So, and get engaged with your community as much as you can, and figure out what sustainability means for you. And that's the start. And see where you can go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we sign off here, do you have anything that you'd like to shout out?
Ooh, Compost Queen. They're a great organization for waste reduction. There's a lot of different organizations that I'd shout out, like Esches, which is a discount grocery store that takes food and products that were overstock from stores like Safeway or King Soopers that would have been taken to the landfill. They're instead resold at these grocery stores called Esches, and they sell them at a fifth of the price. So it's great. Additionally, the farmers markets, everybody should go to their local farmers market at least once a month, if not more. But and your friends that are also taking sustainable initiatives in their day-to-day lives, I would commend them and ask them how to help you out to become more sustainable too.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sitting down and chatting with me today. I really love talking to you about this kind of stuff because you're just so knowledgeable. So I really appreciate you taking some time to hang out with me.
Yeah, I love hanging out with you too and talking about sustainability and engaging other people in sustainable behavior and what we can continue doing and how we can continue talking about loving the earth.
Yeah, definitely.
So, thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Stories from Planet Earth. If you haven't already, please subscribe anywhere you listen to your podcasts. And if you're feeling generous, leave us a review. I'd love to hear from you. You can find us on Instagram at SFPE Podcast. Thanks again for listening, and see you next week.